Travis Wayne Goodsoul. So for the few of you who watched my Judgment Day video, how many of you had watched it and had checked your Urim and Thummim? None of you? What's the Urim and Thummim? How do you get it? This shouldn't be complicated. And yet it is. This is the damage the church has done. Stellarium.org. Make sure it's org. You can either access it online, or if you've got room on your computer, you can download one of the file sizes. If you have a good file size, I highly recommend the higher bit program. Because you'll notice that the moon was at the end of the scales of judgment. Judgment Day. This is the learning of the Jews. As Joseph Smith, in the Joseph Smith translation, which technically was Joseph Smith Sr., he had to teach Junior all about it. It says in Revelation chapter 12, in the Joseph Smith translation, adds, signs in the heavens, in the learning of in the likeness of things on the earth. I don't memorize. I have associative memory. If you've not caught that in any of my videos, this is Jewish Kabbalah, the learning of the Jews referred to. And so, yes, technically, in order to study your Book of Mormon, you have to learn Jewish Kabbalah. Because Joseph Smith Sr. knew Jewish Kabbalah. He was also a Master Mason of the York Rite Freemasonry, which has the Knights Templar. And so you need to know all about that. You need to know about Friday the 13th. You need to know about Egyptian gold plates. You need to know about coming to America and purchasing the land in the east half of the United States with the Kensington stone and the burying of the gold plates in the caves in southern Illinois. All of that is necessary to know what they're telling you. Plus real church history. And, yeah, me, the prophecy that they make. We're in the final year. Mormons have chosen not to believe. And so the judgment now is more severe for Mormons who refuse to believe. And so by revealing to you that I am your Christ, just as Joseph Smith is your Christ, you are under greater responsibility. You no longer are free to choose whether you're going to seek us out or not, to use the learning of the Jews. But for me, being born and raised in the church, 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2 caused me to pursue an education, to seek for knowledge on what the learning of the Jews is, what the language of the Egyptians is. And I did. And now I'm an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. I deciphered the remaining signs for the sign list in the Egyptian. I've discovered that the Book of Mormon, the Book of Mormon and the Bible stories originate from the Egyptian stories, that they're all prophecies of the latter days. And so thus, signs in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth, which are told in Scripture prophecy. So, chapter 2, I just created a new playlist for the Book of Mormon and Learning of the Jews. It's BOM, if you actually do look for it. I don't think anybody is using my playlists. I think those are all in vain. But nonetheless. Yeah, Mormons are going to fulfill prophecy and mock us, as all Mormons mock Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, calling them Christian Jesus. It is a mockery. It says they're in the learning of the Jews. And yet, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has become so powerful as to blind the eyes of everyone. And only those few at least acknowledge something's up, and they can't quite figure out why. And they don't know where to turn to get the education necessary to get their answers to the questions. Because the church won't do it. You just go to the church's website and you can see they will never do it. They've released the Joseph Smith papers, but they don't expect you to actually research them in comparison with the quad that the Joseph Smith papers replaces. Joseph Smith papers nullifies our scriptures. And so, technically, I should be utilizing the 1830 Book of Mormon rather than the 81 version. But I don't have it in a scripture program like I do the church's 81 edition. So, understand that in the context. So, for behold, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto my father, yea, even in a dream. Yes, I am a dreamer. I've had multiple prophecy dreams in my lifetime. I've even published how to interpret dreams. And as such, I know that message dreams, as is common, are those that are received when you're lying on the back of your head. When you're lying on your left side or your right side, you get other types of dreams. And then I've not gotten into too much research into sitting or standing sleep. But, yeah. So, yeah, in this new apartment, I've been sleeping on my back, on the back of my head. And so I'm well aware that I have the potential for message prophecy dreams now. And so my brain, if it recognizes that I'm consistent with the pattern, will then acknowledge that and then begin to communicate with me through that process. And so, I noticed the certain dreams lately are, as a result, sticking in my mind more impressionable than previously on the right or left side, except for those certain few occasions. And so, yes, even in the story of Joseph of Egypt, he was a dreamer. Others in Scripture refer to dreams. And as I've gone over with you, that's how authority is selected by God, through dreams. And yes, that's where I got my authority from. But in this particular case, it's a prophecy of having a dream that Mormons are going to murder me and that I need to flee. They've already been doing this, and I've been able to escape, as the end of chapter 1 I went over with you yesterday. Though this is the intended part of that passage. And so, because this is the final year of the latter days, this is also why I'm still sleeping on my back for the most part, is just in case this is going to be a prophecy for me. The Book of Mormon contains numerous Exodus patterns that are all slightly different. And so I've come to realize that because Mormons refused to believe, missed the Exodus in 2020 that is prophesied in the Book of Mormon. And so the Exodus pattern for Mormons is going to be more like the Mulekites, when those who stayed behind in Jerusalem get destroyed by Babylon, and the survivors are able to flee, and they follow Mulek, who is king. That's why it's a prophecy, and thus me, to the promised land of southern Illinois. Yeah, the church lied to us. It's not Missouri. 19 July, 1840. That's the Joseph Smith paper that just destroys the church. The Book of Mormon itself, with the learning of the Jews, destroys the church. Every person who investigates the church should be asking the missionaries, so if it's in the learning of the Jews, why should I use Christian Jesus interpretation? And then boom, missionaries are stumped, they lose their testimony, they never had it, go home from their mission early, collapse into a ball when they get home, chanting, the church is true, the church is true, the church is true, and life is over for them. It's the way it should be, but for some reason, I don't know why Mormons aren't seeking to understand and know why they continue to believe the lie and just replace it and don't even go, wait a minute, why am I replacing it with Jesus? I don't understand, because for me, I pursued the knowledge, And then found out, as I became who I became, an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I am the Christ. I don't know. I would think it would be easy for other people to at least question it. So anyway, he is told in a dream to leave. Because Mormons are hard-hearted. They want to murder me. And so, yes, I am well aware that by coming out openly now, rather than encoding my videos, that Mormons will be on the offensive now. They will be more aggressive towards me, more violent and angry with me, insisting that it's Jesus, as they denounce Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, and thus me. And they know the doctrine that if you mock and deny me, you become a son of perdition. It's in section 76. Mormons are instantly denied the celestial kingdom, which means Zion. You don't get to go, but you don't want to go. You're happy living in hell. And so, yeah, I am waiting for a dream. And so, the Book of Mormon puts a little asterisk here by departed into the wilderness, because of the prophecy that 2020 is the year of the Exodus. But they don't believe that. They purposely manipulate the dating here, 600 BCE, because they want Mormons to believe that Jesus is real and came to earth on the 6th of April, 1 CE. But no. The first year of the reign of King Zedekiah was 597 BCE, which means 4 CE would be the date. But there was a sign in the heavens on 8 April 4 CE of a solar eclipse over Russia, which, knowing that Joseph Smith Sr. knows this through Jewish Kabbalah, is trying to teach us something, because he's made it very clear we're the learning of the Jews, which means there was no Roman period Jesus. It's a future Christ who would be born through Senior, through Hiram instead of Junior. He is of the Knights Templar, the bloodline. That's what Joseph Smith Sr. is doing here. He is the Holy Grail, and his sons are the continuation of the Holy Grail, the bloodline. And so Joseph Jr. was the first Christ. Hiram, yes, from Hiram Abiff, who is Osiris, who was murdered at the temple. His bloodline would produce Horus, me. And so that's what I corrected in the description below for you, if anybody caught on and wanted to question me, saying, "Aha, you didn't fulfill this prophecy." No, I did, just in a different way. my parents denouncing me involves another prophecy. Two other prophecies. My father rejecting me comes from the Egyptian contest of the latter days, in which my father would side with Satan, Set, thus the church, over his son, who is to be the heir. And then my mom, being named Judy, that's who Esau married from the great and abominable church, and then named his son Ra, the sun, in Egyptian. And so they're prophesying there in that passage of who my mother's name would actually be. Mary merely means love in Egyptian. And so, behold my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Behold my son of Mary, in whom I am well pleased. That's all it is. It's just the Egyptian. That's not her actual name. So yes, it can be tricky trying to figure out which interpretation is to apply. But as you keep studying and researching and looking for patterns and identifying anomalies, running theory tests, and then now that you know it's me, you can plug it in with me now. Whereas before, you should have caught on, if you'd actually done your research, that Joseph Smith was talking about a Mormon who would be the Christ to plug in. And now I'm telling you it's me. And so, yes, just because I tell you doesn't mean it's true, even though I know it's true. You have to still do the research now. But if you refuse to do the research and you refuse to believe it's me, son of perdition. Nah. And so the rest of this is about Mormons who are not fully believing, that they're going reluctantly. And in this particular case, it's because Laman and Lemuel are the children of Lehi. And so this, obviously, my children aren't going. But yes, I do have 3 children, just as Lehi takes 3 children with him in the Exodus. And if I was still married to that wife, she too fulfilled the prophecy of being an unbeliever, calling her husband a visionary man. Stephanie did that to me and left me saying her kids would not learn Hebrew. She didn't really believe the church. She uses the church, especially after leaving me, to fund her lifestyle. And that's why she also went back to McGrath, is because she knew she could have a comfy lifestyle that her daddy gave her if she could acquire the librarian job, which she has now. I found out that she had gotten it back in 2018. I remember her telling me that that's what her desire was. Was just to have a simple country life. And so, yeah, the big city of Salt Lake was too crowded for her. That's why she went to Rick's instead of BYU, too. She's just afraid of people. And it's because she isn't active as a Mormon. She doesn't really do study and research. And so she was very offended and upset with me for being knowledgeable in the church. Because she didn't believe. Therefore, why am I believing? And so, yeah, none of this is literal history, obviously. And, but they do know the geography of the land over there in Saudi Arabia. And it's so frustrating. There was one Mormon who tried to argue that this proves that the Book of Mormon is literal history, because in the early 1800s nobody knew the geography of Saudi Arabia. He was insistent and demanding that nobody knew. And yet I'd go and find maps in the 1700s and the early 1800s to confirm, yes, people did know. It was not a mystery. And so no, it is a wrong argument to use to claim that the Book of Mormon is not the learning of the Jews and is not prophecy, but is literal history as the church demands it is. Stupid. And so yeah, he is trying to get his sons to be good. And so he's likening Laman unto the valley, and Lemuel, Lemuel is the valley. Laman is like the river. Trying to convince them to be good people. And it just makes it worse. Telling Mormons to be good just makes them worse. So yeah, they can't believe that the learning of the Jews could be true, that prophecies of the learning of the Jews would actually come to pass. And yet I've demonstrated, yeah, the New Testament, John the Revelator, they've all come to pass. And the enemy, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a branch off of the enemy, they know about the learning of the Jews' prophecies. That's why they purposely deceive with the cover-up of Jesus Christianity. They have coordinated their attack to fulfill the evil part of prophecy, knowingly, maliciously fulfilling it, so that they can prove to Christians that Jesus is not real, that Jesus will not come and save them. But they didn't expect me. Because, yeah, Brigham Young mocked Joseph Smith. It's in the Joseph Smith papers. He's fighting Joseph Smith. They weren't buddy friends, as the church tells us they were. He was setting Joseph Smith up to be a fallen prophet, mocking him, criticizing him, scorning him, not believing him, and then murdering him and replacing him with Jesus Christianity. The ultimate shame. And so they didn't believe that Joseph Smith would be a prophet, but they were concerned that he knew about their plot in the future, which is why they used Jesus Christianity to replace it with. And so, yes, because of their deception, Mormons don't believe that the Great Salt Lake, or America, would be destroyed according to prophecy. And they were like the Jews at Jerusalem, who sought to take away the life of my father. Mormons are murderous at heart. Just watch the news. Mormon murderers are all over the news. And so, yeah, Nephi is born in the first year. But he did not leave in the Exodus in 2017. That's complicated here because we're actually at a different story. After it's over in verse 15, and my father dwelt in a tent. So that's all about the Exodus in 2020. Mormons missed it. So now we have to find another Exodus pattern as to what's going to fit us. And that's Mulek that I see now. When the destruction occurs, those survivors will come with me. And I have subscribers who are paying attention who are not from Utah. And they've asked me over the years, what do they do? Well, you need to pay attention to the news. You need to pay attention that when the destruction occurs, you are ready to go and that you know where to go. Southern Illinois. Because this is where I then get my powers of the gathering to call Mormons from the four quarters of the earth to come to Zion. And so there may not be the scattering of the Utahns to the four quarters of the earth, because Mormons are already scattered all over the earth. But depending on what will cause the destruction, we'll see. But the Mulek scenario is what now will be in play here. So yeah, when he says, and it came to pass that I, Nephi, being exceedingly young, yeah, that 23rd September 2017, the birth of Nephi that I showed you in the picture yesterday. The birth of me. And then there was somebody who, in that video, where I reveal I am the Christ, asked, who is the baby? It's me. Hello. It's in the little watermark. Bottom right. I've been trying to help you out. So frustrating. So, yeah. Technically we're done, because 16 starts another passage. And it's the rebellion of Mormonism. And the rejection of the true Christ, me, as in the role of Nephi now. Joseph Smith now becomes Lehi, whom the Mormons reject as a visionary man and doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a failed prophet. Brigham Young was necessary, and thus Jesus. I've gone over the visionary accounts, how this church has altered it, destroyed it, to make Joseph Smith wrong. Joseph Smith was wrong with the name of the church, so Willard Richards had to put in Jesus Christ. Joseph Smith was wrong in not identifying Jesus as a coming to him in the first vision, telling him that Jesus is an abomination in his sight. That Joseph Smith got it wrong as to the name of the messenger who came to him, calling him Nephi rather than Moroni. Joseph Smith is wrong by calling it gold plates. It's supposed to be golden because that's easier to carry. And that he gets the Christ wrong. And so we just skip over that verse 40 and ignore it and don't link it to section 103 of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 16, so that Mormons will never know, because Joseph is wrong. And we won't footnote the learning of the Jews so that Mormons won't know, because it's wrong. It's another testament of Jesus Christ. This is what you're seeing here, is that fulfillment. That Mormons believe that Mormons are good people, that the prophets are good and righteous, and refuse to believe that they are wicked, that they are following an idol god and not pursuing the true Christ. For behold, in the day that they shall rebel against me, I will curse them even with a sore curse, and that they have no power over thy seed, except they shall rebel against me also. So this is the first part with Joseph Smith, where both the wicked Mormons and the good Mormons are together. But for Judgment Day, the prophecy is that I will be kicking out the unbelievers. They will not go. That needs to be understood here. That this is now talking about Joseph Smith and his day. And so the parables of the wheat growing up with the tares that look exactly like wheat until they're fully grown, yeah, that's what we're applying here. So, chapter 2 is done. Cut off. Verse 21, before I close. Cut off. That's what Joseph Smith uses in his second vision to explain precisely as it stands in our New Testament for Acts, which is utterly destroyed, if you've ever watched those videos of mine. See, he's referring to the latter days, that Mormons will grow together, both the wicked and the righteous, but the time is coming for the end when Mormons will be cut off. So that's what the Book of Mormon is setting up here. The Lamanites are the wicked Mormons, who are white supremacists, who would use blackface, and then the good Mormons, who are the Nephites, the Church of the Lamb. But it varies, because Samuel a Lamanite, who is me, goes to the capital of Salt Lake City, in the valley here, starting his ministry, 23rd September 2017, and is wanted to be murdered by the Mormons. So, it can be confusing for the first time around, but that's why I'm doing this series for you. Because we're in the final year. It's all happened so far. It all has come to pass. The Book of Mormon is true. Joseph Smith is true. Just in the learning of the Jews, not Christian Jesus. Literal or epic.